All right, episode 2, Mental Man. Hello, everyone. Hello, Brad.
Oh, hello, Jordan.
How's everything? Your favorite
Amazing.
question.
Yeah.
So today I want to talk more about your story.
Sounds
And-
good.
Yeah, so I was here in 2019, and that was September 26th was the birth of Ellie?
27th.
27th, yeah. So how did that moment affect you?
When she was born?
Yeah. I'm curious.
It was it was a crazy time in my life because I was working as a medic up north, and I had quit my job because I didn't want to be one of those guys who missed out on their kids growing up,
Yeah.
just so they could make $1. And I had no plan. Like, I had no job, no plan of what to do or anything like that.
Wow.
And so I had been off for maybe like a couple weeks before her birth. And I don't know, it was like a scary time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what was going to happen. But we had some savings, but still. And anyway, so then the day she was born was just crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
So I had no
life-changing.
idea you were like in a transition period in your life.
Yeah.
At that point. Oh. So why you said you didn't want to be that like absent father? Is that the main reason why you left that job?
yeah. So there's like quite a few guys who are like working the oil patch who they just work all the time, right?
Yeah.
And they have young families because they talk about their kids. Anyways, one time it was like just after Christmas break. So it was like we came back a little earlier than usual. Sometimes like those companies, they're pretty good. Sometimes they'll give you like a good chunk off
Yeah.
for the holidays. But we came back and this one guy was like, oh yeah, my kid was born yesterday. And they called me to work. And I was like, you're a piece of crap. Like, there's no two ways around that.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, they're forcing me back to work. It's like, no, you could have said no. No exists.
Yeah.
Like, take time off for your wife.
Yeah.
And I was just
Damn.
like, I'm not gonna be that guy. So
Why not? Like a lot of guys would choose work.
I just have a strong belief in your marriage is a partnership, and you're sharing your life together. So that means sharing all the big experiences. And I just knew, especially right afterwards, I didn't know what kind of shape Ash was going to be in and what exactly my role was going to be and all that. So yeah, I really wish if I could go back, I wish we had like set somebody up to like come to the house, like a very trusted family member, friend, to be like, literally all you do is like just help us out for like 2-3 days,
Yeah.
like so that we can sleep in between when like the baby's up and stuff like that, because you're just like you're so exhausted.
Yeah.
Because like even when you're the dad, it's so hard to sleep in a hospital room anyways.
Yeah.
And then the baby's up all the time. Like newborns feed like, hour to 2 hours. So, and so I was always like grabbing her and then trying to like rewrap her up afterwards. And yeah.
So when you're feeling that exhausted, what gets you through the day?
I don't know, almost just like you have to. And then, because then you go home, right? And like I could sleep, but Ash was breastfeeding. So anyway, she was in this like group chat on like a Facebook Messenger chat with all the with this mom group
Yeah.
that we met in like a birthing class thing. And so they would message each other just at like 3 a.m. like, anyone else up kind of thing, just because I think almost all of them were breastfeeding. So they were all kind of living the same hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how were you dealing with things? Did you have your own little man text group, or were you just alone?
Well, I was just alone.
Jeez.
It's hard because like obviously like everything's on the mom really, because it's like they're not sleeping. So
Yeah.
there's just so much more stress behind that. So when you're sleeping like an hour at a time, it's basically like sleep torture, really. And so, and like you're trying to like be like super empathetic and everything. There's only like so much you can do. It's like, okay, like I'll change every single diaper and I'll take her as much as I possibly can so you can try to have like a better sleep and all this kind of stuff. There's only so much you can do. So you just like feel terrible because you feel so bad for her.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you're like, I need to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long did it take for you guys to have like a normal rhythm and schedule?
A very long time. So then that was in September. So then December rolls around, and it'd been 3 months. We basically burned through our savings at that point, and I was like, I need a job.
Yeah.
So I went back to the moving company I used to work for when I was in school, and I was like, I'm just gonna get a job as a mover again for now until I figure something out.
Yeah.
And then they offered me a sales job instead, and yeah,
Oh.
that's kind of like turned it into my career now.
Yeah. So during those first 3 months where you weren't working, you were just 100% focused on the baby?
Yeah, honestly, I don't look back on a lot of those days with a lot of pride because I was like also drinking a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was trying to like find any moment to like get another beer, to like get another drink. And I lived my life like that for a while, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, because I was always like, because when I was working up north, it's like you can sort of drink up there. You'd have to go to like a bar or something.
Yeah.
But basically, like if you're staying in a camp or like one of the houses that the company sets up, it's like you're not allowed to drink there. You're not allowed to drink in camp. You're not allowed to drink in the house. And obviously you can't drink it. So it's kind of like you'd be out for 2-3 weeks at a time. And so you just want to drink. And so then I'd come home and I'd drink for like, every day for like a week, 2 weeks. And then so I was always like, I'm in control.
Yeah.
I'm fine. But then, I don't know, I never considered myself like an alcoholic because I was always like, I can stop. Anytime I want, I can stop.
Was it like the nerves or something from being a new father, or was it the worry about the future, or
No, I don't think it was anything like that. I just wanted to.
alone time maybe?
Alone time. Also, like, I probably didn't realize it at the time, but my mental health probably wasn't in a great place. And then you feel the need to have a drink. And then, as you know, alcohol is a depressant.
Yeah.
So then you feel worse.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Becomes that circle, that vicious circle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, do you feel like you didn't have anyone to talk to about what you were going through?
It's like I knew I had people to talk to. There was one day, Ellie was maybe like a month and a half old, and my sister was over, and we were in her room, and I was just changing her, and my sister was like, she's, you're doing such a good job. She's such a good, happy, healthy baby. And I broke down. I was just like crying. I was just like, you just have all this pent up, like, I don't know how to describe it. It was just like, you worry so much that your kid's okay. And then you worry so much that you're a good parent. And then to have somebody say you're doing a good job when you have like, it's so isolating all of a sudden. Cause like right off the first like 2 weeks and stuff, people are like bringing you food and checking in on you, and then they just disappear. And you're on your own. And me and Ash have always been really, really bad at asking people for help. And so then we just struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find here people are, I don't know if it's more independent, like you don't want to bother anyone, or
I feel that that's what it is, but I wish that was like there's also this weird thing I find in our culture where people are like, I hate my family. I got to get away from my family.
Yeah.
It seems like so many people think that, or I don't know why. And so then, your family should be like your biggest support system, which I mean, obviously every family is a different dynamic, right? But when you when you let that rock slip and you're on your own, then, it's a terrible feeling.
I remember like feeling, because I was here and I was like, should we go to the hospital? Like, it's like in the movies, like, should I give Brad like a cigar and stuff, like, to celebrate? And like, I didn't feel like anyone was like doing anything, so I was kind of scared at that time too. Yeah, like, I think I should have went there and supported you.
I mean, honestly, they have this thing that they give the moms when they're in labor. I forget exactly what it is, but they put it into the IV drip, and it's supposed to be like an antibacterial thing for the baby, because some small percentage of babies can get this like bacterial thing and then get really sick. I can't remember exactly what it was. Anyways, they forgot to give it to her because, the labor was like a huge disaster. We can get into that story some other time. Yeah. But so then they were like, oh, because we forgot to do this, you have to stay in the hospital for 48 hours or something. Like, usually it's something like until the mother goes to the bathroom, like she can poo and whatever. And then they're like, okay, you're good to go. And, but anyway, so especially because it was over the weekend. So like the cafeteria in the hospital was like closed and shit. Like, it was just so isolating, but then also we wanted to be alone because we were so exhausted. Okay. And when people come over, it almost feels like you're hosting them or something in a freaking hotel room. Yeah.
So when you first held Ellie, what was your feeling?
Oh, I just cried. It was such an odd feeling. It was just like joy and terror.
Where does the terror come from?
Well, it's because it's like your whole life just changed. Like, there's this huge great unknown, right? Because like, I'd seen, my sisters with babies and stuff like that, but you're only there for like a brief period of time. You're there visiting them for like a few hours. You see what they're doing, but you don't understand it. And so then, but once you have that like terror hits you, and this like massive wave of like responsibility hits you too, you're like, well, this is it. I'm in it now.
Yeah. And you have to do everything to like protect her. Is that the man instinct?
And then, so there's this other thing that's weird, is that, so obviously like Ash carries her, right? And so she feels the love like right away. I didn't feel that right away. It took me like 2-3 weeks probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that moment? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember the exact moment, but I just remember feeling like I'm supposed to be feeling this tremendous love for this baby, and I didn't. Yeah.
And is there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's
my guess is that it's like a total, like, it's probably a normal thing that nobody talks about. Yeah. It's sort of like one thing nobody talks about for some reason is you want to have the worst sex of your life, go and try to make a baby. Because I don't know why, but for some reason when it's like all on you, like you have to just come. That's all you got to do. Yeah. And that's you. It's like, doesn't even matter about the woman this time. It's like, get the job done. And for some reason, it's just like, I can't. Like, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. And normally you're just like, yeah. Like, oh, I can't wait to try to have a baby. It's like, we're going to be having sex like every day. It's going to be great. And then you're like, this is hell. Yeah. Yeah. Brandon's laughing. He knows. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's funny. I just thought that was me. I thought I had some kind of like problem. Like I had some weird, almost like I had ED or something. Yeah. And then I remember talking to my brother about it at a hockey game. He's like, "Oh God, yeah, same thing." Like,
okay. Yeah. So in those like that 2-week space, what do you? Is it just that like instinct feeling that you're like, okay, I just need to protect this baby?
No,
And then-
I never felt. I just felt like I had to do everything I possibly could for Ash. Is what I felt, which meant helping any way I could with the baby and like taking over everything. You know, it's like I'm gonna do all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the everything, and
Is that what you did?
yeah. Well, then I wouldn't say all the cooking because Ash is way better at cooking than me. And then she also was like, I need some sense of normalcy. I need to feel like I'm not just like a milk cow. I need to have a life.
Yeah.
And in the babies classes, they always tell you, it's like, oh, you should sleep when the baby's sleeping. Yeah, right. That's your time to like live your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you have any moment of like independence in those first like few months, or drinking was more of your way of
I was like, I definitely let everything slip. Like I didn't try to make time to like see friends or family or any kind of alone time. But part of me was like, because Ash isn't getting that. So
Yeah.
it's like, maybe I don't deserve that. I don't know what that feeling was. So,
Yeah.
and so I would, when she went to bed with the baby, that's when I had my alone time, and yeah, I'd drink if I could.
How long did that last?
A pretty long time, because it wasn't until she would sleep like for longer stretches that I felt good enough to like try to do stuff. Yeah, so
How long does that take before?
it's so different, it seems like, with every baby, but for Ellie it was like somewhere between 3 and 6 months, somewhere in that period of
Okay.
time that she would sleep for like 6 hour stretches. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And how was your mental health like in the first year, let's say? Were you
I was in the tank. Oh yeah.
were you like burnt out all the time, or?
Mentally, for sure. Yeah, because I felt this massive responsibility to try and help as much as I could. I don't know. Yeah,
And-
it's hard to describe.
Why didn't you talk to anyone about it?
I don't know. Just shelled it up, which is so weird. Because I've been through like a lot of therapy in my life, like just tons. And so I know it's like you have to use your support system, and I just didn't. Just shut it down.
Yeah, it's interesting because you did do a lot of therapy, so you were aware that you could talk to someone, but yet at this time you chose to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, like, is that like something about you don't want to show that you're weak, or you want to like you have to be tough or something, or?
I think it's more of like a burden on people. That's like, I don't want to burden them with this. So I'll just say nothing. And everyone close to me knows that I have a past of like self-harming. So I don't want to worry them, and I don't want to make them even think about it for a second. So I just say nothing. I don't even say stuff to Ash sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the like? Because I know a little bit about your self-harm
Yep.
stuff. Where like talk about that, and like what is the root of that?
So I started when I was 17 or 18, and I don't remember Oh no, it was. I remember when it started. I was actually with my girlfriend at the time, Carmel.
Yeah.
Good times, and was in her basement, and she had like a basement suite thing. And anyways, I was like sitting on her bed, and I can't remember why I sat back too hard on the bed, and the wall, it was just like a concrete wall, and I hit my head on the wall, and it like really hurt. And then afterwards, I don't know why, I got this like euphoric feeling,
Really?
and then that sort of started it. And anytime I'd be feeling really low, I'd hit myself, but I'd always try to do it in places that you couldn't see, in case I got a bruise. Yeah.
Was it to re-experience that feeling, or?
It's like a weird thing. You get like a dopamine rush right after you do it.
Yeah.
And then you'd feel like crap. You'd be like, why did I do this? What's wrong with me? Yeah.
So is that like you did you just want to feel something, or what?
So then I only really learned this in like recent therapy within like the last year. And she was talking about, she was like super focused on my childhood and like what was going on with me. And I realized, like, I was a middle child. I'm like total middle child, like everything. And like I used to have these massive temper tantrums when I was like even like a preteen, and I'd like jump on the floor, and it was like all to get like attention because I didn't get any. But the times that I did get attention was when I got hurt. And I got hurt a lot because I'm super clumsy. Like I have tons of stitches all over because I'm so clumsy.
Yeah.
And anytime that I got hurt is when everybody, like the attention is like super focused on me. It's like, oh my God, are you okay? And all this. I think that's where it came from. Is like I wanted attention, but it's so funny because it's like you want it, but you don't want anyone to know what you're doing. Yeah.
So how do you think that experience of your past will shape how you raise your kid?
Well, one big thing is like all the therapy I've been through. I know that it's like, have you ever been to a therapist before?
Not really.
When you first go, it's like, it's hard to like get started because you go in and you feel like you're some kind of failure or something. Like, of course, now I'm here, you know, I'm a loser. I don't know. That's how I felt. And then, or back, the first time I did was when I was 18 or 19 anyways. And so back then I was like, I'm crazy. Like, I don't know, anybody who sees a therapist, I don't know, you know, like I'm a crazy person is what I thought. And, so it takes you a second to like get started. And so it's just almost like this weird silence. And from that experience, I learned when you're talking to somebody about, you want to get like, you want to know what they're really feeling. You have to stop and wait for them to talk. And so with Ellie, like she's 5 and she's feeling all these complex emotions, and sometimes you don't know where an emotion comes from. So she'll be really upset, and then I'll go and sit with her and we'll talk, you know, really slowly, and I'll just, you know, and then like sit and be calm with her, and then she'll open up and she'll be like, this kid at school was really mean to me today. And that's why she's acting like this, not because I took her toy away or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just read this book called The Anxious Generation.
Yeah.
And they were saying like the term parenting was just invented in the 1950s. And then it just is kind of like starting to be understood in the 70s. So it's just like this new thing. Before it was just like, you just let your kids go, right? And like, you don't really talk to them that much and that deeply. But I think now we've gotten to a point where you can talk openly to your kids, right?
Yeah. A big thing too is like when I was little, I remember it was like grade 4 or something. I had a crush on a girl, and then she had a crush on my best friend at the time. My God. Ryan Gary. No, not Ryan. Ryan something. Not Gary. That's from a different school, but his name was Ryan. Yeah. Anyways, and I was just, I don't know. You know, I was a little kid. I don't know what I was supposed to be feeling.
Yeah.
And I got home, and I, like, threw a temper tantrum or something. And then my mom, like, chased me down to the basement, tried to find out what was wrong with me. And I couldn't talk about it because it was also somehow in the moment I realized how stupid it was. And then she's like, it's because of me. It's because I'm a bad mother, isn't it? And I was like, yep. And yeah.
Was that like a cry for help or something?
No, it was just like, I don't know. I think my mom's been depressed for a long time and doesn't know what to do about it. So
yeah, I know where that comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, she would blame herself for everything and project it onto us. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like when I was in grade 6, I stole. Do you remember Pogs?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so there's this kid named Steven who convinced me to steal some Pogs from this kid's backpack. And so we did, and then he gave those Pogs to his friend, and then the friend told the teacher those were his Pogs. So we had taken his friend's Pogs, and then we got caught, and I think I did it just for the attention. Like what you said, I just sometimes needed that attention.
Yeah.
You know, I just would do like stuff for that. Like just to be seen, to be like, you know, as a confirmed that you're a human, that you exist. Because that's sometimes difficult to come to terms with, right? That you're a functioning person and you're a complex person. You have many layers. And if you don't get that attention, you're going to do some crazy stuff to get it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how long was it from when you had Ellie to George?
So he's 3, so 2 years. But then it was like, you know, obviously she was pregnant for 9 months, so it doesn't quite feel like that big of a gap. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So were there any lessons you applied from Ellie's birth to George?
Yeah, totally. But it was that the second time was a C-section, so it was a whole different thing.
Oh.
And then sort of same thing. Now I'm trying to take care of Ellie and take care of Ash. And then that was like a super hard period of time too, because sort of the same thing. She's breastfeeding George, not sleeping, but she has to spend so much time with him. And so now I'm taking care of Ellie. I'm doing like all the bedtimes and all that kind of stuff. And Ash at one point, I remember, was even just like, yeah, I feel like I miss her. Like I get no time with her. Yeah. And that was like, that year was probably the most stressful year of my entire life.
Really?
Oh yeah.
What made it so?
George was like such a tough baby, just like scream all the time. He didn't sleep through the night for like a year.
Really?
It was awful. It's brutal.
How did you deal with that?
Badly.
Yeah.
I actually started like self-harming a lot back then.
What year was that?
That was like a year ago, 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So were you drinking a lot during that time? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, drinking a lot. Yeah.
And self-harm in what form?
Same. It's always the same thing. Like hit my body, hit my legs.
And is that like what for what reason this time? Was it just to feel something, or was it attention?
I think it's always the same root. It's like I don't know how to deal with it. And I didn't. People always say like, call me, you can talk to me, but it's the same feelings. I don't want to burden somebody with my emotions. So I just ball it up. It's like you said earlier, if you don't deal with something, it's going to get you.
Yeah.
And then this actually happened like a year ago, maybe. Yeah, it was about a year ago. I was day drinking a lot, and I can't remember why. I was really, really upset about something. So I took nail clippers, and I took you take the end that you can like clean your nails with.
Yeah.
And I was dragging it across my chest and across my stomach.
Wow.
And those scars were like really bad. They took like a long time to heal. So trying to like hide that from Ash. And that was when I went back into therapy. And that's when I saw this new therapist. It fucking changed my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was while I was here?
Oh
wow.
Yeah.
God, I had zero clue.
Well, I hide it.
Yeah.
And then honestly, it was, I can't remember, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I switched to like mostly non-alcoholic beer, that's fucking changed my life. If I said that saved my life, that might not be that big of a stretch.
I've never tried. I think maybe I had like 1 or 2 non-alcoholic beers, but is it like just the flavor that?
It's just like the action of, it's like a fake dopamine rush. It's like you have, after a hard day of work, you have a beer, and you get the same feeling without getting drunk. And it's,
That's interesting. So what was it about this new therapist that changed your life?
She focused more on my childhood, and she like kind of tried to get me to get to the root causes of where all this stuff comes from. And we did this thing, I forget the name of it, maybe Brandon can look it up. It's like a therapy. You look at a light that goes back and forth, and you hold 2 paddles in your hands, and it's supposed to like open up new neural pathways as you're, so she kind of would talk about an emotion, and she would say, okay, chase that emotion, trying to like get deeper thoughts. And it was like the most emotional experience of my entire life. I was like crying, like snot coming out my nose, like, and then after that I felt like emotionally numb for like 2 weeks, because it was like such a release. And then and after that and a couple other things, I don't know, I was just like, I don't want to say I'm like fixed, but it's like something about knowing where it came from, when it started, why I'm doing what I'm doing, just like changed everything for me. Yeah.
No, I had that experience too in November. I had a really tough conversation with a family member that I held on to this resentment for 20 years. And we just talked openly for the first time, and that person apologized to me. And just in that exact moment, I had to like take a second, because I felt this weight off my chest, and I could just breathe again.
Yeah.
And it was just like 20 years of holding on to these feelings was just released. So it's just, I think, we hold on to the past, like the weight just kind of brings us down. And then we have to like go to the root of it. And then you just kind of take that weight off you, right?
Yeah.
So what did you feel after that? Like just light, or?
Yeah. And then there was another, this was like, there was like that time that I really hurt myself, and like me and Ash weren't doing really good, and we're like living with her parents, and it's just like so many bad things all at once. And George was still pretty difficult, but he's like grown in leaps and bounds. It's like crazy. And everyone is so fast to point out when your baby's fussy, your baby's so fussy. But when they're getting so much better, nobody points it out. They're not like, oh man, like he's doing so much better. Like, you guys are doing a great job or something like that. No, they only point out when you're bad. Yeah.
Was that happening the same time you were going through your therapy?
It was like kind of like, this was before, I think. I can't remember the exact timeline. But anyways, then there was this night, me and Ash had a bad fight, and I was going to Kevin's to watch a hockey game.
Yeah.
And so on the way there, I was like, there's 2 ways this night can go. Either I go there and I'm miserable and I complain to Kevin, and the night goes a totally different way, and it's not fun. It's not a fun night. Or I choose to be happy and I go there and have fun, which is what I need. I need a fun night. And that's what I did. And then that night, I like couldn't sleep. When I got home, I was like, I had an epiphany. It was like I've been choosing anger and like sadness and like almost sort of like an attention thing. It's like I'm going to be miserable until somebody comes and says, oh, are you okay, kind of a thing. And then instead I was just like, I'm going to choose to not be that way. I mean, nothing's perfect, right? Bubbles up sometimes. And I'm going to just do everything better for myself. And, in that, I'll be better for Ash. I'll be better for the kids and all that. And then after that, I went back to therapy, and it was, oh man, it's been a game changer.
It sounds like you had a moment of like an epiphany where
Oh yeah.
you realize that nothing in this world will save you. Like,
Yeah.
no person, no event, no anything. It's just you have the decision over your future, right? And I think it takes us to get to those low points to realize that we have control over our destiny. Do you feel that was a kind of moment?
Huge. That was like, that's probably going to be like a defining moment in my entire life now. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had similar moments, just different ways to get there. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think lots of people might have those same kind of experience, but they just kind of hold it inside. Because I had no idea about any of this.
Well, it's not really something you talk about, I guess. I don't know, but I remember talking to Ash about like that night, and everything's just been like very different since then.
So when you do have something negative come into your life now, are you still conscious of what?
Yeah, like sometimes, like I feel that urge sometimes, and I'm just like, it's not worth it. Like I'll deal with this in a better way.
So what are some of the ways that you deal with it?
It's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like a mental trick almost. It's like something really bad happens. It's never anything like really bad. It's not like grief or anything like that. It's like just something super stressful happens at work or something super stressful. It's like, okay, I need to find a way to think about this in like a funnier way. And sometimes when something really stupid happens or, later on, you think it's funny. And so that's kind of how I try to approach it. Or it's like if something super stressful happens at work, it's like, I think, this moment is going to pass, in 2 weeks, this isn't going to exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I was telling Brandon, for me, I've been journaling a lot, and I think that when you get it onto paper, it's just a story.
Yeah.
And it kind of loses its power over you, whereas if it's in your head, it seems real all the time. It seems like, and it just keep coming and coming until I think that's there for like a survival mechanism for you to deal with the thing, right?
Probably, yeah.
It's like we have like, consciously we know what we need to do, but we have that voice that's trying to like subvert that, right? And I think there's that like moment of connection between those two kind of narratives that like push you to action.
Yeah.
Like, let's get you back on track to your destiny, right? Because for me, I was like, I knew where to go, but I would just keep like sabotaging myself because I didn't want to do it.
Well, it's like it all takes effort too, right? And I find so many times you're just drawn to what's ever easiest.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I can try to fix this, but that's going to take effort. And that's going to take time. And maybe I'll just watch another movie,
Yeah, that's what I feel here is that life is so comfortable. Like even just the beds. Like in China, the beds are like hard. Like there's a sort of like toughness and discomfort built into society there. But here
it's the communism.
Just, the what?
It's the communism. Yeah.
The good part, right? Yeah. But here it's just everything is much easier. So you're kind of like put into a situation where you don't have to work as hard, I feel.
Oh yeah, it's like you think about like Amazon, and everyone says like, oh, they're an evil corporation. Don't buy from them. And you're like, but what if I just order this one thing? It's gonna be delivered right to my door. I don't have to like.
Yeah. So that's
it's like I didn't personally look up the slave labor. That wasn't me. That's
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. It's like all of our phones, there's parts that are made with child
Oh, yeah,
labor.
exactly.
And but we all participate because it's easier, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You kind of think it's like a bigger entity than me has to shut that down. What can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of the lessons that you learned that you apply to your kids now, other than just talking to them one-on-one? Are there any other things?
That's like the biggest one. And then is things like, I would say the biggest thing is like sometimes you don't know where an emotion comes from. And so you have to give it time to, to find the root of it. And then a big one is trying to like keep them busier, not sitting around so much. So like we send them to this school, it's called like Forest School, and they walk a lot and stuff like that. And I think it's important for like kids to have stamina. If your kids have stamina, then they're more willing to go play more and that kind of thing. They don't want to just sit around and do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find the food here like way more sugar than I expected. And,
Yeah.
like the flavors are strong, like lots of salt. Yeah, compared to China, I feel like
I think China, they don't have salty food.
not as much. And
Okay.
like sometimes you have a meal here and there's like no veggies. Like a French fry is considered a veggie, whereas I'm used to like having more vegetables and stuff.
You can eat more vegetables.
I
You
can,
don't.
yeah.
You're like, well, I'm here.
Yeah.
I might as well.
Yeah. And it's like a lot less movement here. Like I feel like I could, in Beijing, I could just pick up my bike and go ride across the city and come back. But here, it's like in the winter time, it's like you don't really want to go out, and
Oh yeah.
then I'll have more sugar and then become lazier and stuff. It's just easier for that.
I think that's like an evolutionary thing because you want to like fatten up for winter.
Yeah.
So that's why you get like these like you just see it once the sun starts going down more.
Yeah.
Earlier I should say. You're just like, God, I'm so hungry.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like we look at our watch and it's like 5:45.
Yeah.
and it feels like 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And it's just like we have another 4 hours. Yeah.
What am I gonna do? Well, obviously I'm gonna eat chips.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of the chips are like $2 for a bag or something. So it's
Oh yeah.
way cheaper than like healthier food, right? So
Oh yeah. I just think it's again you kind of get lazy. You're like, well, I could make myself a veggie platter,
Yeah.
or you see these Takis.
Takis are evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about talk a little bit about where you're at now? In terms
Oh, I'm doing like way better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the kids are doing like way better, and yeah, it's trickier with George because he hasn't quite reached, like he can't talk about what he's feeling and things like that. So instead, he's just like super upset, and so I try to just like redirect all the time.
Do you see that they have certain like talents or something, like singing or something like?
No,
Nothing yet. Okay.
no, they're like their dad, no talent.
And so where do you see yourself in 10 years? What's your vision? Do you have one, or are you living day by day?
I'm trying to more take it like day by day. Like if opportunities come up or something, I'll, maybe try to take them. But yeah.
Yeah. So then what motivated you to kind of like join this podcast, do you think?
Mostly because I don't think that, especially men, they just don't talk about their mental health enough, or just their feelings, their emotions enough. And you just ball it up, and you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know that many guys that would talk about. It's funny. I've had this whole thing my whole life. For some reason, people will just open up to me I've had like my whole life. I'll never forget the first day I realized it. I was working at Heritage Park, and I was working grounds maintenance with this guy, and we were driving in the truck, and for some reason he just opened up to me about, I can't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I have the exact same feeling. Like people will open up to me for some reason. I don't know why. Like I had a 2-hour phone call with a friend yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like, I don't know why I talk to you openly. Is it the Buddhist thing or something? I'm like, I don't know. It's just some people will just confide in me.
Well, I have a theory about it though.
Okay.
I think that at some point you probably showed vulnerability, so then they'll give it back. Ash used to talk about like trying to like making friends and stuff like that, and I always said like the way to take a friendship from like a work friendship or like something is like to offer vulnerability, and then they either take it and offer back, or you're just work friends.
That's a good thing to live by. And I think you hit on something important, is that like when we were growing up, that vulnerability wasn't really like
No.
It wasn't like a virtue or anything, right?
No.
Like, but now we both come to a place in our lives where we see that as like a thing of strength, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like worry about, there's so many, the like, what do you call it? The men's loneliness epidemic and stuff they talk about.
Yeah.
And I think that's like such a big thing for men, especially who are like 19, 20 right now, because I just think they grew up at a bad time, honestly, for that kind of stuff. And now there's all this crap out there about being an alpha. If you're not an alpha, you're a beta.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are we, gorillas? What are we talking about here? Like, this is goddamn nonsense. Like, what does that even mean? It's like, I'm an alpha, so I beat my wife because, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I think that's our biggest epidemic now, is like male loneliness, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just rampant everywhere. And like what you said, it's a combination of like easy life and like, just being on the computer all day. And, I think we're drowning in information, and yet we're starving for wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Like we want that connection, and we're getting this kind of different form through social media that doesn't really satisfy our brain. It's like, this is what we need, like face-to-face conversations and stuff. So for anyone listening, at least for me, it was the intention is for you to sit at this table with us and just be a part of the conversation. So I think that's a good place to end. What do you think?
What time are we at? Okay.
48.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good place.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing your story. I learned so much about you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, in this hour. So thank you for being open and vulnerable. And we'll have many more podcast episodes like this, I hope.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
See you next time.
See ya.